how you doing? So I've recently read and collected all of the Chainsaw Man series that has been released so far. I started to collect the series as it was suggested to me by a friend, and I wanted to check it out before the anime airs. And I have some thoughts about the series, both good and bad. So I wanted to dedicate this video to discuss my thoughts on the series as a whole and hear what you have to think about the series as well. I will be talking about major spoilers for the series, so if you haven't read it for yourself just yet and you're worried about spoilers, then I highly suggest you click off this video and come back once you've caught up to volume 11. With all that in mind, let's start with the concept for the series. The series follows a devil hunter named Denji. The world is filled with devils that feed off the fears of humanity. Like if you had a fear of spiders, then you'd be feeding the spider devil. So during one of his devil hunting missions, Denji is killed and fused with his pet Chainsaw Devil and becomes the new Chainsaw Devil hybrid. He's then tracked by the public safety devil hunters and is forced to join their group. There we meet characters like Aki, Power, Himino, and Makima. We get to know some of the side characters a bit better, and we get to see Denji kill the villain of the week. This all builds up to Denji fighting the gun devil who has possessed Aki and forces Denji to make a tough decision. We then learn that Makima is secretly evil and has killed off the other members of her suicide squad, which forces Denji to fight her and eventually kill her. She's reincarnated as a young girl, and he's left responsible for raising her into a less murderous devil. He's also going to high school, even though he's never gone to school in his entire life. After that quick recap, let's talk about some of the positives before we get to the negatives, starting with the humor. The humor really hit for me. It got a lot of audible laughter out of me, like when Denji and Aki had their nut-kicking competition in Volume 5, or when Power accidentally killed the assassin with Kobini's car. It's almost as humorous as One Punch Man, in my opinion. Another thing the series does really well is the artwork. The fight scenes especially look very good, but there were a few moments where it was a bit hard to tell what was happening. But I enjoyed the artwork for most of the series, and I do love the covers on the volumes, especially Volume 4. But I'm a bit biased since blue is my favorite color, and Aki is my favorite character in the series. My next point is a bit of a positive and a negative. That is, most of the villains have cool designs and power sets, but they're underutilized. For example, I'll use the Eternity Devil from Volumes 2 and 3. The idea that they could trap the group in the hotel forever was pretty interesting, and it somewhat reminded me of the episode God Complex from Doctor Who, where that group found themselves in a similar situation to Denji and the other devil hunters. The Eternity Devil's power set was a cool concept, but they're killed off and that was the end of it. No real lasting effect from that villain. You may be saying something like they're not supposed to leave much of an impression on you because they're not a main villain, or an earlier villain that's just meant to showcase the other characters' abilities and personalities. Well, let's use a villain who shows up later in the series, known as Reze. Reze is pretty much just a younger Makima with purple hair. She's manipulative, powerful, and she's out to kill Denji. I think she did have potential when she was going on the run and had the possibility of becoming more of an anti-hero, but that potential was wiped out when Makima killed her. Again, a villain with a cool power set and design, but any potential they had was ruined. However, there are a few villains that do make a lasting impression on me, one of them being Katana Man. I think Katana Man won me over because he shows that Denji's actions have consequences, even if they're unintentional. Katana Man was related to the mob boss that Denji killed in Volume 1, and now he wants to avenge his grandfather. He's also one of the people responsible for Himino's death, which affects multiple characters in an emotional way. I wish more of the villains could have made that sort of impression on me, but most of them just missed the mark for me personally. And it's not just villains that I have a problem with, as this carries over to a lot of the heroes as well. Angel Devil, Beam, Violence Devil, Hirokazu, and plenty others just aren't interesting to me. The only characters I really care about is Aki, Himino, Power, and Denji. I really only enjoy Power and Denji for their chaotic nature, as I'm drawn to chaotic characters, and they're great at creating comedic moments. Other than that, there's nothing else to really draw me to those characters. Denji does get some character development throughout the series, like learning what he truly wants in life or the reveal that he killed his father, but none of it totally sold me on him as the main character. Himino and Aki are my favorite out of those four, and I think they're the best developed in the series. Himino's development is tied to Aki's, so I'm going to focus on him for most of this section. At first, Aki seems like the cold and stuck-up type, especially with the way he treats Denji, but he's mainly like this because he knows how dangerous devil hunting can be, especially since the gun devil was responsible for his family's death. But as their work relationship continues, he becomes more open. He begins smoking cigarettes even though he promised that he'd never smoke. He puts his trust in her and she develops feelings for him. Then in one moment, it's all taken away when Katana Man shoots and kills Himino, another person he cared about taken away because of a devil. another funeral he has to attend, another person he has to avenge. And it hurts him even more when he reads the letters that Himino's sister gave him, and learns that she wanted him to quit public safety with her, but she stayed because she knew that he wouldn't leave. If he had quit, then she would still be alive, and now he has even more of a reason to stay. And when him and Denji finally capture Katana Man, he begins to open up once again, this time to Denji. He becomes friends with Denji and Power, three people who were at each other's throats earlier in the series, now having fun together and actually enjoying living with each other, which only hurts more when Makima turns Aki into the gun fiend and Denji is forced to kill him. And this is one of the times when I have an issue with the pacing. The series is very fast paced, both to its advantage and disadvantage, and the time we get to mourn Aki's death feels too short to me. Denji didn't feel anything when Himino died. He wasn't affected by her death because he didn't get to build much of an attachment to her. Sure, he wanted to kiss her, and he promised to help her get with Aki if she helped him get with Makima, but they were never really friends because their time together was cut short. But Aki's death was the first to actually make Denji feel depressed since his father died. He didn't like Aki at first, but after living with Aki, fighting with Aki, and laughing with Aki, he built a real attachment to him. And we did get to see some of it, but it felt like it was cut short. Like there wasn't enough time for the death to really sink into the characters and the reader. And I'm not saying that we needed a whole volume of Denji grieving the loss of Aki. I just wish there was a bit more time to breathe before jumping to the next big reveal. That being Makima killing Power and revealing that she is the Control Devil to Denji. Speaking of Control Devil, let's talk about Makima as a villain. I'm personally conflicted about Makima because there's parts that I like and parts that I didn't like about her character that all adds up to her being meh, in my opinion. When I first saw her, I knew she was going to be evil. Her presence just shouted, "Hey, I'm evil, and everything I do is going to foreshadow later events." Her manipulation tactics are a testament to this. Her reveal just felt too predictable to me. Like the big reveal that we've been building to just falls flat on its face. There's no real shock factor for me personally. Her mission to wipe out things that plague humanity like war, hunger, and death using the Chainsaw Man is an admirable goal, even though she uses messed up methods to achieve it. And giving her the ability to control people and use their devils is a pretty cool ability. Other than that, there's nothing to draw me to the character. She just missed a few marks for me personally. The ending, however, does leave me curious. I'm interested to see how Denji handles the reincarnated Control Devil and how he could become an older brother figure for Nayuta, just like how Aki was an older brother figure for Denji and Power. I want to like Chainsaw Man. I can see why people enjoy the series, and I'm holding out hope that I'll enjoy the anime a lot more than the manga. I'm also curious to see where part 2 goes, but part 1 just missed too many marks for me personally, and at the end of the day, I'm left feeling like something just didn't click with me. Maybe the series just isn't for me, and that's okay. If you're a major fan of the series, then I hope part 2 lives up to your expectations and more. But as for me personally, I think Chainsaw Man will be the first manga series that I drop. But that's just my opinions on Chainsaw Man, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the manga. Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below, whether they be positive or negative. And I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye!